Welcome to our series of conversations about global education. Today we have Dr. Curt Bonk with us. Curt is a professor of instructional technology at Indiana University, and I would really like to congratulate him on this incredible new book that he has just published called The World is Open. And it is a very incisive book talking about the role of instructional technology and how it's going to change what we're doing in education and the transformation process that's taking place. So I'm really very excited about this conversation that we're going to have today. Welcome, Curt.
Thanks for having me here today, Jenny, by the way. This is really great to have a chance to talk to some of the people in the trenches, making changes, And it's exactly why I wrote the book, is to speak to superintendents and principals and people who are maybe taking Thomas Friedman's book and reflecting on economic changes that are happening. They also, I think, need to talk about educational ones, and I'm trying to help make sense of them.
What did you mean when you said education trumps the economy?
We have to think about innovation of our populace, creativity skills, synthesis skills, problem-finding skills, and decision-making. And technologies can foster that, can get students to make sense of information in unique ways, to put it into projects, put it out on display for an audience beyond their own school, classroom, and building, so they can get feedback from experts around the world, so they can change it and manipulate it. It's never done. And so really we have to start thinking about all these technologies that might foster higher order thinking skills. And I think that's where we're at today. And that's kind of the underpinning of the book, is just that.
What do you see in terms of the international trends, like when Tom was talking about all of this and the world is flat? What are the implications internationally for access and the internet?
These are openers that are international in nature that get kids aware of. Even the Flat Classrooms project that has kids analyze books like Thomas Friedman's World is Flat book, or Don Tapscott's Grown Up Digital book, or this year my book, where kids analyze the trends in the book with others around the world. They're high school classrooms in Beijing, in Bangladesh, or Qatar. And there's an example of international education in the Flat Classrooms project. And if people haven't looked at that, there's an example of people using multiple technologies, collaborative ones like Ning or blogging tools, to get kids to converse about trends in education, not just teachers conversing, but kids conversing about it. It's a participatory culture that people like John Seeley Brown and others talk about, the fact that kids not only browse the web, which is important, but they also can write to the internet and add to their own podcasts or do their own shows, to have their own wikis for collaborative work or blog postings.
I want to push this issue of global, because we say to educators around the world, your students will participate in a global economy, and they must be prepared for that. Yet none of the educators that are teaching these children have participated in a global economy. This is as new to them as anybody else. What are some international examples of how the internet can help this, that you can share with people to help them understand how this can help them prepare their students for a global economy?
You just hit on it right there, the word share. I think a teacher's job in this coming decade, and in fact, I call this century the learning century, as I explain in the book. I think we will reflect back on this century and call it the learning century. But in this decade, if we had to label it something educationally, it'd be the sharing decade. Mm-hmm. We have moved from using technology to enhance or extend what we do with CDs shrink wrapped into books and so forth. Now we're moving into transforming and sharing what we're doing. So that teacher's role becomes that is to share internationally with other people using tools like Curriki, that Sun Microsystems was involved in, and Scott McNeely, and he actually read this book before it came out. And Connections, another tool like Curriki, Connections from Rice University, where people put up contents on the web that are shared and maybe peer-reviewed, maybe are linked together with communities wrapped around them. So that's one example. There are these portals. At the higher ed level, we have Merlot. At the K-12 level, there's Curriki. So we have these portals of international sharing sites. so that people become aware of the contents and don't necessarily have to recreate that content.
A lot of those resources are free, and that is a very interesting concept because the onus then is on the instructor which ones you want to use, but they're all available to you.
Free availability of contents has opened up the discussion, but now we have to push beyond that to think about the quality of the contents, to think about reshaping that and remolding these free contents so that people can pick and choose and personalize or customize the learning for someone. And how do we make sense of this for the courses that people struggle at the high school level, for courses that people are introductory courses they need for community college. That's where the focus will probably end up for the next 5-6 years, is trying to make sense so that there will be a national skills library where people can get retooled and they don't drop out necessarily, or they drop back into high school.
So when we talk about textbooks, there's an interesting one to put on the table, Curt. What's going to happen with textbooks? Are we going to see students walking around with laptops and readers like Kindles or Sony readers? What do you see happening within this learning period, these next 5 to 6 years?
In the past few months, all of a sudden, not only we have crisper devices, cheaper devices, they weigh less. We have more choice on the devices, but also the contents going in and how we access them. So we have to think both about contents as well as about the technology and the devices. And the two of them have married together. At the higher ed level, we're at about 5% of textbooks being, ebooks, and that's only going to grow in the coming few years, so that it will be natural for someone to pick a ebook, which costs $50, $60 less than the physical book. There's still problems about how many semesters that make that available before it self-destructs and all that. But yeah, we're making huge progress in the last 6 months in the digital book side of things. California is part of it. Korea is part of it, but the rest of the world is going to be jumping in. Mobile learning, to me, the ninth opener, in some ways has become the most important opener because it enables access to billions of people that didn't have it. On your iPhone, you can do math and physics, and you can blow into it like a flute. And there's all sorts of educational applications coming on your mobile devices. So.
Right.
That's what's going to be exciting, is getting Shakespearean quotes on your mobile phone and bendable screens eventually. So if we worry about the size of text, we'll have fold-out, screens eventually. So this is going to change, I think, and put full classes on your mobile device, even just retooling and re-examining content you already learned while you're on the bus or while you're in the car with your family. Mobile will be part of the key solution to the educational needs that we have today.
Is there going to be a cataclysmic event for the entire global education environment that is going to help, move this? Or what is your prediction?
When I go into a school today or a higher ed community today, it's much different than 4 years ago or 3 years ago. They're much more receptive to change. We've moved from awareness and resistance phases to understanding and use.